So, Chairman, we're now live and we're able to start the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, good evening and welcome to a virtual meeting of the Major Planning Application Committee meeting of the London Borough of Hillingdon. This is a virtual meeting that is also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon London. My name is Councillor Steve Tuckwell and I am the chairman of this meeting. Before we start, there are some important online housekeeping rules that I'd like to just go through for everybody present this evening. Can I ask that you please ensure that mobile phones around you are put on silent? Can you please keep your microphone muted when not speaking and unmute when called to speak? Only one person should speak at a time, and I as chairman will call those to speak and will keep an eye on the room through the gallery view to see those indicating. For the purposes of verifying who is in attendance this evening, for those who might be watching on YouTube, I will now call each member this evening, and if you could just indicate if you are present or not. Councillor Morse?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman? Thank you. Councillor Duncan?
Present, Chairman.
Present.
Councillor Hagger? Thank you. Councillor Higgins?
Present, Chair.
Councillor Higgins? Thank you. Councillor Melvin?
Present, sorry.
Present,
Councillor
Chairman.
Morgan?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you. And Councillor Sansapori?
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. Liz, does that confirm all of the voting members present this evening?
Yep, that's confirmed. Everyone's present. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Right, we do need to do the same for the officers that are supporting this evening's meeting. So I'll just ask to verify our planning officer this evening, Richard Phillips.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you and good evening. Our head of planning, James Roger.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. Our Democratic Services Officer this evening, Liz Penny. I know you're there because you're keeping a watchful eye over all this. And our legal advisor this evening, Glenn Egan.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you and good evening. Okay, right, in terms of technical meeting control, if any councillor leaves the virtual meeting part way through for a period of time, maybe through a lost connection or so, I will continue the meeting unless we are not quorate, which we know is 3 councillors. Importantly, if any councillor does leave the meeting this evening for a period of time, they will not be able to vote on the item they were not present on. Okay, that deals with the attendance and a few of the online housekeeping. We can now move this evening into the main body of the agenda. So we'll start with agenda item number 1, which is apologies for absence. Over to you, Liz.
Apologies were received from Councillor Eddie Lavery, and we have Councillor Alan Chapman substituting for him.
Okay, and many thanks to Councillor Chapman for standing in this evening. Okay, we now have agenda item 2, declarations of interest in matters coming before this evening's meeting. I'll look at the gallery view to see if anybody is waving at me. No, okay, no declarations this evening. Agenda item number 3 this evening then is to sign and receive the minutes of the previous meeting, which was on the 16th of June. Again, I'll look at the gallery view. Okay, Liz, can we take it that those notes are agreed?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, good. Swiftly on to agenda item 4 this evening, which is to confirm matters notified in advance or urgent, which there aren't any, which we can then move on to agenda item 5, which is to confirm that all matters this evening will be considered in part 1, which is in public. There are no part 2 items for consideration this evening. Okay, we can now move into the main body of the agenda. We have 1 petition item this evening, which is agenda item 6, and I can also confirm that agenda item 9 has been withdrawn this evening. So people watching on YouTube will know that that item has now been withdrawn. So, as I said, we've got 1 petition item, which we will hear from various statements a bit later on. But I think it's a good point now to hand over to Richard to take us through the application. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Okay, yeah. Agenda item 6. This is one of 2 redevelopment proposals being presented to this committee on the site of the former Star Public House on the Uxbridge Road, with this scheme being recommended for refusal and the scheme being considered in item 7 being recommended for approval. This scheme comprises a Part 4, Part 5-storey building with commercial space on the ground floor fronting the Uxbridge Road with 14 flats above, with a mix of 1, 2 and 3 bed units, and the erection of a separate 2-storey building to the rear to provide 2 3-bedroomed houses and associated car and cycle parking, private and communal amenity space. Members should note that there are changes on the addendum on this item, most notably that the first floor plan and the rear elevation of Block A have been revised on the 13th of July 2020 to clarify that the scheme is capable of providing step-free access to the communal podium amenity area. There is relevant planning history on this site, including a number of schemes that have been dismissed at appeal, which are detailed in the officer's report. Members should also note that a number of responses have been received from neighbouring properties, both objecting to and in support of the proposal, including a petition in support of the application. So if we just go through the plans. So that shows the location of the site on the corner of Uxbridge Road and Star Road. That is the constraints plan. It's showing the formerly locally listed Star Public House, which has long since been demolished. And that's a site layout plan, just showing the main sort of rooftop area of the proposed buildings. Obviously, the building at the front is referred to as Block A. The building at the back is referred to as Block B. So that's the red line location plan. Again, that's the ground floor plan, showing the 2 blocks, Block A at the front and the 2 houses known as Block B at the rear. Again, that's a more detailed ground floor plan of Block A at the front of the site, showing the commercial unit and the access to the flats above here, with the undercroft parking at the rear. Again, that shows the first floor plan of Block A. And this is the amended plan that came in on the 13th of July, and it shows a platform lift here that would give access to the podium amenity area at the rear here. And all the units have balcony areas. So here, the hatched areas. So again, this is a second floor plan. And here we have oriel windows that protect the private patio amenity space of the 2 residential units at the rear of the site. And these windows will be obscure glazed here as well. It obviously gives them further protection. And again, that's the third floor plan, showing a very similar arrangement with the oriel windows and obscure glazing. Again, that's the recessed 4th floor plan, showing 2 units on the roof of the building with their own sort of private amenity sort of roof terraces. And that's the main roof plan with its green roof above the 2 units on the roof. So that shows the east elevation of the proposal from Star Road. And that shows the north elevation, the rear elevation. Again, that's the front elevation from Uxbridge Road. And that's the other side elevation, showing the adjoining property known as Transport House here. So again, that's the ground and first floor plans of Block A, the pair of semi-detached properties at the rear. And that shows the second floor roof plan area and the actual roof plan of the property. And this shows the north and west elevations of Block B. So the Block B is there in relation to the Block A at the back, well, at the front of the site, but obviously at the back of the houses. And that's the rear elevation of the houses. Again, that shows the other side elevation and the front of the properties. Again, that just shows the elevations of the two blocks in context to each other. Again, that shows the bird's eye photograph of the site. Again, there we have the site. It's all been boarded up. That's Transport House, the adjoining property. And again, that shot's taken from within Star Road, looking towards the Uxbridge Road and the application site. Again, that's a view of the rear of the adjoining property, Transport House. So our application site is over here. And this shows the adjoining flatted block on Butler Street, I believe. With a pair of garages at the back there. Again, that shows the rear of our site on Star Road. Again, that's another shot showing our application site in the foreground and Transport House in the background. That just shows another shot of in Star Road. Again, that shows our site in relation to the adjoining parade on the opposite side of Star Road. That's Byron Parade. And this shows a redevelopment scheme on the corner of Uxbridge Road and Pole Hill Road, which is the next road down from Butler Street. And these two slides just show the 3D perspective. This is the one of the our current scheme, and the next slide shows the scheme in that's been considered as part of item 7. So, a residential mixed-use redevelopment with a commercial unit on the ground floor of this vacant site within the Hillingdon Heath local centre is considered to be acceptable in principle. The commercial unit is of an appropriate size which would contribute to the vitality of the local parade. Given the separation distances to surrounding residential properties, the scheme would not appear unduly dominant from neighbouring properties and adequate privacy would be maintained. A daylight and sunlight report has also been submitted, which identifies that there would only be minor breaches in terms of BRE guidance on daylight and sunlight levels to 3 properties on the opposite side of Star Road, which is considered acceptable, and overall the scheme maintains suitable levels of sunlight and daylight to its neighbours. The size of the units all satisfy housing standards, and the scheme would afford an acceptable standard of residential accommodation. Furthermore, the amount of external amenity space in the form of private balconies and roof gardens and the communal podium amenity area would provide a choice of amenity space that satisfy the council's amenity space standards. The scheme has been revised, including the provision of obscure glazing and oriel windows to some of the rooms on the rear elevation of the flatted block, which would now ensure that the patio areas of the 2 new residential properties would not be overlooked. Although the council's access officer did ideally want 2 main lifts to be provided within the flatted block, it is considered that this is too onerous on a scheme of this size. Revised plans, as detailed on the addendum sheet, have also been submitted, which show a platform lift being provided to the podium amenity area. The highway engineer is satisfied that the parking provision and access arrangements are acceptable. A financial viability appraisal has also been submitted and reviewed by an independent assessor who concludes that the scheme cannot support affordable housing or an in lieu payment. The scheme has been amended, which has resolved some of the inspector's concerns raised on previous schemes, and a number of the detailed concerns initially raised by the council's conservation urban design officer on this scheme. However, it is considered that due to the height, scale and massing of the flatted block, it would appear visually intrusive and incongruous and appear as a large bulk above the roof of the adjoining transport house. It would be an overdevelopment of the site within its setting on the Uxbridge Road, which in this vicinity mainly comprises 2- and 3-storied buildings. On this basis, the council's design officer maintains their objection to the scheme, and a reason for refusal is being recommended. The second reason for refusal is also recommended, as this scheme at this stage has not secured a Section 106 agreement to mitigate its development impacts. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for taking us through that this evening, Richard. As was mentioned earlier on, this is a petition item, so we do have a couple of statements that will be read to the committee. So, Liz, can I hand over to you to take us through those?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the first statement is from the petitioner. It's in support of the application. This is item 6. And the petitioner states, I, along with 90 other local residents in Hillingdon who signed this petition, urge the councillors sat on the committee this evening to support the application to regenerate the former Star Pub and vote in favour of it. As our petition states, the regeneration of this brownfield land will allow for new homes to be brought forward for local residents who are desperately in need of housing. Having seen the plans, it's clear that the homes being provided are of good size and quality, with over 1/3 of them being family homes of 3-bed or above. It will also provide a new shop at the ground floor for the parade. This will assist in the regeneration of the parade and surrounding area. This will aid in the recovery of the local economy in a post-COVID world by providing the opportunity for a new business and the new jobs that go with that. Furthermore, the construction of the development will also help in the provision of jobs and aid the economic recovery both locally and nationally. I therefore ask that you take our petition into consideration this evening and vote in favour of this application to regenerate the site of the former Star Pub. So that was from the petitioner.
Thank you. Can I just ask Richard to come off presenting, so I can see the grid screen? Thanks. Yeah. Liz, is it okay to take us through the agent or applicant statement now?
Yeah, certainly. So this is from the agent, and he says there are 2 almost identical applications before this committee for determination. One recommended for approval, which is 10 flats and 2 family houses, and one for refusal, 14 flats and 2 family houses. In short, the scheme recommended for refusal is considered too high in this setting, although a second reason for refusal is included: failure to complete a Section 106 agreement. In this respect, the applicant is agreeable to all of the Section 106 requirements in the same way as they are in relation to the scheme recommended for approval. The agent has submitted those 2 photos. If Richard wouldn't mind just very quickly, sorry Richard, just putting those back up again on the presentation, just for the purposes of comparison. It's a picture of the 16 dwelling scheme, which is recommended for refusal. And then the agent, also submitted this picture, which is of the 12 dwelling scheme recommended for approval, just for the purpose of comparison. Thank you, Richard. Continuing with the agent's statement. As you can see from the visuals, the only difference between the 2 proposals is the scheme recommended for refusal has 1 additional floor in the block of apartments, which your officers consider unacceptable. In all other respects, including the level of car and cycle parking, unit mix, amount of amenity space, overlooking, space standards, privacy, daylight and sunlight, and scale and design of the family houses is acceptable. The Uxbridge Road is part of the A4020, the earlier highway out of London to Oxford. It has 4 lanes of traffic plus side roads, green verges with trees, and bicycle paths. It carves a space 40 metres wide through the London suburbs. Mostly constructed from the 1940s onwards, the buildings mainly consist of shopping parades with flats above and a variety of commercial premises. Most are in a poor state of poor construction. They are in many architectural styles. There are examples of taller buildings. Legion House 854 to 864 has a setback 3rd floor, but with a thick canopy aligning with the facade, effectively a 4-storey form, as does the building on the corner of Pole Hill Road. This building has 4 stories, although there is a roof garden with a glass balustrade, so it reads as 4.5 stories. Where these instances of extra height occur, they break with the prevailing 3-storey heights, but do not seem out of keeping with the scale of the street. Our 4-storey proposal is set back between 2 and 3 metres with 3-storey facade. Our 5-storey proposal has the same setback from the facades, making it akin to the examples mentioned above and much more appropriate for the scale of this wide street. The scope for regeneration of the street is immense. Higher buildings create higher land values that encourage redevelopment. There have been just 3 objections to the proposal, none of which relate to the scale. In contrast, the committee report refers to letters of support and a petition in support signed by 91 local people. I understand further individual letters of support were submitted over the weekend. So what are the benefits associated with this proposal? Use of a vacant brownfield site for a mixed-use scheme, well-designed buildings respectful of neighbouring amenity, commercial units on the main road frontage ensuring vibrancy for the local economy, provision of 16 much-needed dwellings, including 2 family houses, contributing to the council's housing supply, a developer ready to commence implementation. All dwellings meet or exceed the space standards and are dual aspect. 12 flats, all with a private balcony/terrace. 4 family dwellings (brackets 3 bedrooms), including 2 houses. All dwellings have private outside space. Well-designed communal garden. Overall level of amenity space exceeds the council standards. Opportunity for adjoining transport house to be developed at a similar scale, thus maximising the development potential of both sites in accordance with national, regional and local planning policy. Significant SIL payments, circa 93k to GLA and 151,000 to Hillingdon. In conclusion, we consider the scheme represents a positive addition to the street scene, maximising the use of this vacant brownfield site without detriment to the neighbours. We therefore respectfully request that planning permission should be approved. That concludes the agent statement. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And we've got no other statements from ward councillors or anything? No?
No, we haven't received any other
Okay.
representations.
Good. Okay, well, first, on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank both the petitioner and the agent for submitting those statements. So thank you very much for that. Before we go into questions, just want to draw members' attention to, we do have a bit of crossover here between agenda items 6 and 7, as we have seen. I would just urge that we are considering agenda item 6 here. That's what we have in front of us, as agenda item 7 doesn't have a petition, and we will be considering that as our next item. We have 2 refusal reasons outlined, and I think it's now anybody want to take us forward on this one? Councillor Hagger.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I must admit I have a few concerns over this. First of all, I completely agree with officers on the height. It's certainly not in conjunction with the rest as the properties around that area. It doesn't look good. It actually looks really big and out of place. I think 16 dwellings, looking at that, it's obviously 14 flats plus the 2 houses. I just think it's too much. It's definitely height and scale and overbuild. But what more, I think really one of the other reasons as well is the disability access. So actually going through the notes and reading it, I understand that officers have asked really that there should be 2 lifts, and we heard that in the presentation, which was brilliant, but we can't, so we can only have 1 lift. And that really does restrict the disability access to it, and it is written in the report. I'd like to bring that up. And my other concern is the air quality. So in the report, it does say that we should try and have 0 carbon on the air quality, and obviously they're hitting 35, I think it was 35%. So I would actually support officers' recommendations for refusal on the items that they've already brought, but also picking up as well on the 0 carbon. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hagger. Richard, can you come back on a couple of points raised there around access and air quality?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, as the report said, I mean, providing 2 lifts in a block of this size is going to be very onerous. Obviously, lifts are expensive to install and, you know, quite expensive to maintain. So, you know, for 14 units, I don't think it stacks up financially. Now, in terms of the air quality, I mean that is captured in the reason 106 reason for refusal. Again, obviously, when we get onto item 7, obviously that we're seeking a contribution, I believe, in terms of air quality. So it is captured in this reason for refusal in terms of the not being a lack of section 106 at this stage. Obviously, had the application not been recommended for refusal.
Okay, I see you nodding there, Councillor Hagger. So I've got Councillor Duncan, Councillor Morse, Councillor Higgins and Councillor Chapman indicating. So we'll go off with Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I completely agree with Councillor Hagger's assessment. It does look out of place, particularly in light of other developments in the area opposite and just up the road. Also, there have been appeals where 16 units were refused and also 14 units were refused under appeal, which seems to indicate that it's not possible to get a larger number in a larger building here, and that has been tested on appeal. I would also echo the comments about air quality. I know it's very difficult if you're on a major distributor road out of London and into London, bus route and carrying commercial traffic. Of course, pollution levels are going to be high, and if you're going to have housing, then they will suffer from that. But at least if there's a 106, then hopefully measures can be put in place to mitigate that in some of those units to an acceptable degree. So I would like to move officer's recommendation on this one, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Morse, you had your hand up patiently there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to agree with Councillor Hagger's point, because I don't take the view that if we condition a repair on the single lift, even though we get it down to a 24-hour response time, this is adequate for people with disabilities raising to this floor. So I think there needs to be 2 lifts. There's not 2 lifts. So that's one point I'd pick up. And the second point I'd pick up is I've looked at the inspectors talking about notable heights. And I take the view this is overdevelopment and too bulky development. So I'm certainly minded to vote it against it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Was that second in the?
Oh, I will also second. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I always miss that bit out.
No problem at all. Okay, next I've got Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm on the fence on this one, really. When we say planning officers are saying that it was onerous, was the fact, did they offer us 2 lifts, or, and we said we didn't need 2 lifts? That's the first point. And the air quality, I mean, I appreciate that we need to do the air quality anyway, but as Councillor Duncan has stated, it's quite a busy road anyway. So, and it would officers, if we had the 106 in place, would this still been stacked up for refusal? Can I have those questions answered, please, Chairman?
I think we had James Roger indicating there. So James, you want to come in?
Yeah, we kind of, in terms of major applications, development of this scale, so whether we're talking 10, 12, 14, 16 units of flats, we'd normally be satisfied with 1 lift. So the council's access officer, his preference is to have 2 lifts in case 1 lift breaks down. But in effect, if it came to an appeal situation, we can only push the 2 lifts on a bigger scale development than what's being put forward here. So we actually sometimes find ourselves as officers trying to argue to get 1 lift in schemes of this type of scale, but we have the 1 lift. What we have given consideration of, and this will be referenced in the subsequent scheme, and I believe it's in the committee addendum, is that it is possible to condition that there's a maintenance plan in place to try and ensure that the first lift doesn't break down in the first place. So there is something that could go some way to meet the access officer's concerns, but that would only apply if we were approving the development. And in this case, officers think it should be refused. And I would clarify that were we approving it, we would be seeking all the contributions identified in reason 2. Therefore, that's why we've referenced air quality and carbon offset. So we would cover those issues. Thank you, Chairman.
No, thank you, James. Councillor Higgins, any comeback on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, James did a very good job answering the first question. But the second question is that I'm asking is that obviously we put those things in because we haven't got the 106 in place. My question still is, if the 106 was in place, would we still be refusing it?
James, can you come back on that?
So our primary concern with this scheme is that the scale of development would have an unacceptable impact on the street scene. What I would say is I do know the Uxbridge Road very well because, as has been highlighted, is one of the principal roads in the borough. And there's various examples of 2, 3 and 4 story buildings which are architecture that kind of complements the street scene, but it stops at 4 stories, and this is a 5-story proposal, and it's that jump from 2 stories to 5 stories that officers feel is too much and resulting in adverse impact on the character and appearance of the street scene. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I can see Councillor Higgins nodding there. So I've got Councillor Chapman and followed by Councillor Morgan. So Councillor Chapman, if you can.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to clarify the point about the disability access myself, actually, and the requirement for a second lift. If we're not, I was going to ask whether we could have that as a third condition, but from my understanding is we couldn't. Apart from that, just suffice to say, I'm more than happy to vote against it, and it is too big. It's a gross overdevelopment.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Believe it or not, I actually agree with the officer's recommendations on this. However, I still have some issues with the first floor plan in the sense of apartment 4 doesn't seem to have any screening that I can see between the bedroom and the garden that's been provided, the green roof, and also any soundproofing to actually enter the garden from the apartments. You know, is there anything to stop those doors from being slammed shut at the middle of the night? And also the platform lift. You know, again, that's against the bedroom. That could cause issues for the people living in apartment 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Interesting points raised there. James, you had your hand up.
Yes, the floor plan is deceptive because the windows are at a much higher level. So those windows are not at effectively sort of 3 or 4 feet height above the amenity area. They're much higher, such that there wouldn't be an overlooking issue. And I think in terms of, I think page 165, I think perhaps might show this best, but yeah, so the internal floor areas of the building with those flats is much higher than the area above the parking area. So it's the height difference that's the key. If those windows were only 2 or 3 feet above the amenity area, I entirely agree that there'd be an issue, but they're actually much higher.
Okay, I can see Councillor Morgan nodding there. Right, I'm looking at my grid screen. I'm not seeing any other members looking to indicate. Councillor Morgan?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back about the soundproofing from the
Okay.
door going from the first floor into the garden and the platform.
Richard, James, can you pick up Councillor Morgan's point?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, as regards the platform lift, it would be used on such an infrequent basis that I can't see it presenting too much for a problem for the neighbouring property. Also bear in mind it's the houses that are intended to be the accessible units as well. So often that lift would only be used on an infrequent basis if somebody was in, had use of a wheelchair in the flatted block. In terms of the door, I mean that's quite a normal relationship. In terms of any block of flats, you're going to have a door that serves the amenity space. I don't see it as too much of a problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Right, again, I'm not seeing any members indicating, so we are moved and we are seconded. So I think we can now go to a vote on this application. So I'll start with Councillor Morse.
For, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Morse. Councillor Chapman.
For officer's recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duncan, you moved, so I take it your for officer's recommendation.
I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hagger.
Yes, for, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins.
For, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. You seconded, so I take it your for.
No, I did not second it.
Okay, who was it who seconded? Is it Councillor Morse who seconded?
Sorry. I am for.
Yeah. Too many M's on this list I got here, so yeah, apologies for that. Councillor Melvin.
Yes, I'm for, Chairman.
Thank you. And Councillor Sansapori. Councillor Sansapori, you're still on mute. You're still on mute, Councillor Sansapori. If you can unmute your microphone.
It's showing us unmuted. Just put your thumbs up, Robin, or down, whichever way you want to vote.
Okay, that's a for officer's recommendation.
Yeah, that's a for.
Okay, right. Okay, so I make that 8 for officer's recommendation to refuse this application. Liz, can you confirm?
Yes, Chairman, I can confirm that.
Okay, so I can confirm that agenda item 6 this evening is refused. Okay, right, that's all of the petition items heard this evening. So we will move on to agenda item 7, which is a familiar application to members, as it is exactly the same address and site as the one we've just debated. So, Richard, I will hand over to you to take us through agenda item 7.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, this application is very similar to the previous scheme, with the main difference being that one of the floors within the flatted block has been removed, making the flatted block a Part 3, Part 4 storey building, with a reduction in the number of flats from 14 to 10 units, comprising 6 one-bed, 2 two-bed and 2 three-bedroom properties. The scheme would have 12 parking spaces, 10 in the Undercroft area serving the flatted block, and 1 on the front drive of each of the houses. Members should note that there is also an addendum on this item. So again, if we just flick through the plans, yeah, that shows the location plan. As you've seen before, again, we've seen the constraints plan before with the former locally listed pub on the site that's not long since gone. So again, this shows the site layout plan, just showing the rooftop areas and the footprint of the building. Again, this shows a red line location plan. Again, this shows the ground floor plan of the 2 blocks. Again, this is the closer up view of the ground floor plan of Block A. It shows the Undercroft parking here, the access into the flats above, and the commercial unit on the front on the Uxbridge Road. So again, this shows the first floor plan with the platform lift again and the podium amenity area. and the pair of semi-detached properties at the rear. Again, this is the first floor plan. Sorry, the second floor plan. Again, showing the oriel windows that prevent overlooking to the private patio area of the two houses at the rear here. And again, this is the third floor plan showing the recessed flats on the rooftop area. And this is the actual roof plan showing its green roof on the very top of the building. Again, it shows the east elevation of the proposal, which is the elevation on Star Road. Again, this is a elevation to the rear of the flatted block. Again, that's the view, the elevation to the front of the property, and this just shows the adjoining transport house and the relationship of the two buildings. Again, this shows the west elevation from transport house. So this shows the podium area here. This is the ground floor and the first floor plans of the pair of semi-detached houses at the rear of the site. And again, this is the second floor and the roof plan. And again, this is the north and west elevations of the pair of semi-detached properties with the flatted block behind. And that's the south and east elevations of the pair of semi-detached houses. Again, this is the elevations in context. Again, you're saying that the reduced height of the flatted block on the frontage. This is a bird's eye view of the site. So, okay. So for the reasons outlined in the officer's report and cited within the previous presentation, the proposal is considered to be acceptable in principle and would support the vitality and viability of this part of the local centre. The scheme will be acceptable in terms of impact upon neighbours, the quality of the accommodation proposed, accessibility and highway impacts. Although the access officer remains concerned about only one lift being provided, a condition is included on the addendum sheet which requires details of a lift maintenance and repair strategy to be submitted. As on the previous scheme, revised plans show a platform lift providing access to the communal amenity area. A financial viability appraisal has also been submitted with this application and reviewed by an independent assessor who concludes that the scheme cannot support an affordable housing contribution. Although a review mechanism is recommended and would be secured within the recommended Section 106 agreement should there be a delay in the implementation of the scheme when financial conditions may be different. However, with this scheme, a reduction in floor height, the proposal better responds to the urban context of Uxbridge Road by providing a part 3-storey, part 4-storey building. The proposal, due to its layout and design, is considered to have successfully overcome the reasons for refusal and appeal decisions of previous redevelopment schemes on this site and the concerns raised to the larger scheme considered in item 6. For the reasons outlined in this report, the application is being recommended for approval, subject to a Section 106 agreement and the recommended conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much for taking us through that, Richard. Okay, we don't have a petition on this particular item, but before we open up for debate, I've got Councillor Morgan and Councillor Higgins indicating so far. I'll just draw members' attention to that. We do have 22 conditions attached to this. And obviously the lift was covered in the previous debate, but I'm sure it will be discussed again. So I'm going to go over to Councillor Morgan. You had your hand up there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Can the officers please explain to me how on the first floor plan, people in apartment 4 can actually access their balcony or patio, whatever you'd like to call it? I can't actually see any doorway.
Richard, you okay to cover that off when you get to the relevant page?
So which floor is we referring to?
Shall I answer it, Chairman? Because I know the answer.
It's the first
Okay, James,
floor,
go for it.
apartment 4.
It's actually apartment 8 as well, I think. But but both 4 and 8, I'm assuming they're patio doors rather than a single door. But I don't think there's the intention that they wouldn't access the. So there's an architectural feature showing a glazed area. I mean, we could do a very simple change to a planning condition to ensure that there is an opening. If members are happy to delegate to me, that's a very simple change to conditions just to ensure that there is an opening. But I see the point that there isn't the usual architectural door symbol. It's just a symbol for glazing, and it's actually 4 and 8. Yeah, if members, I think it's 4 and 8. Yeah, if members are happy to delegate to me, I'll ensure that all of the units have doors to their balconies.
I'm seeing some thumbs up there, so I think that's gone down well with members. Councillor Morgan, does that address your points? He's good. Okay, Councillor Higgins.
Like to move officer's recommendation on this. I think we've covered most of it in the last one, and so I'd like to put that forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Higgins. Councillor Duncan, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think it also applies to Unit 8 and 10 as well, from what I can see. Unit 7 has a door onto the balcony, just talking about that balcony issue that was raised earlier. The point I wanted to make is, can the car parking spaces be allocated to the residents of these flats so that they are no financial obstruction is put in the way of people using these, so that they have to pay for them outside their mortgage or whatever, and also that they're not rented out to commuters or other people, so that they're solely used for the residents of the flat, and they must be allocated and used by only them for the lifetime. I think we normally put on something like that anyway, so there's probably a standard condition about that. And I would like to second the officer's recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. I saw James Roger had his hand up there.
Councillor, it's all when you've got lots of conditions, you're always conscious there might be one that's missing. The councillors are correctly identified that we've misallocated parking, so I would completely endorse that be added as a condition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good spot. Okay, Councillor Morse.
I would just like to take note of the sustainability officer's statement about carbon dioxide, and we've got a condition 7 in which I've not seen before, and I would strongly support the officer's line on this, in that too often we have buildings that don't have the level of a CO2 reduction, and we've ignored it to some degree and just taken a cash payment. But I do strongly support this condition that's been added in. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you, Councillor Morse. Councillor Hagger, you indicated?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Duncan's picked up what I was going to bring up about the car parking spaces, so thank you. One of the other things, I was just disappointed, obviously, to see that it wasn't included in the affordable housing, but good to see about the recommendations that we've got in. But I just wanted to bring that point out because we're so short of affordable housing again, and here we go again, citing where, you know, we could have done that really. But I'm pleased to see that it's been noted in the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Councillor Hagger. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, certainly a better design. I've still got issues, shall we say, in terms of scale and massive, not in terms of height. Assuming that we're going to pass it tonight, you've got 10 parking spaces within the building. Can we make them all either passive or active electrical charging points? I would suggest maybe 2 active and 8 passive.
Okay, there is an addendum on that, but I'll ask Richard to pick that point up.
My apologies.
No, just to clarify the addendum, Richard, can you do that for us?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, there is an addendum item on this that talks about car parking layouts, and yeah, we're seeking demonstration that a total of 5 parking spaces are served by active or passive electric charging points. This will be based on the demand. This reflects the highway engineer's comments, in all honesty, whereby an active parking space can deter its use by normal traditional fuel powered cars. Yep.
Councillor Chapman, did you want to come back on that?
Yeah, that's fine. My apologies. I didn't notice that. I have to say. The other issue I was going to just mention to you, on the basis that we are proposing to sign off on the front of the building being a commercial unit, can we put in a restriction on the hours of opening? I wouldn't want it to become a 24/7 operation.
It's condition 21, Councillor.
My apologies. I've missed that one again, have I? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Just on the electric parking, another planning meeting last night actually talked about electric parking points, which actually covered two spaces. Is that possible on this one?
Can I suggest, Chairman, you delegate to me to sort out appropriate charging? Is that okay for me to?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can have less clutter and more access to electric charging.
So there are charging points that effectively you can do 2 cars at once now. So if we can achieve those, that's better than having a charging point and serves a single car. Absolutely. So if you're happy to delegate, I'll ensure that we have the best possible outcome in terms of charging.
Okay, good. Right, I'm not seeing any other councillors or members waving at me, so I take it we are moved and seconded, so be a good point now to move to the vote. Now, what we are voting on is either way for approval, but we do have some delegated conditions that James is going to pick up. That's around the opening times, changes to conditions 4 and 8 in relation to what Councillor Morgan raised, parking allocation, and changes to the parking charges configuration. So, Councillor Morse?
4.
Okay, Councillor Chapman?
4, Chairman, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, you seconded this, so I'll take it you're 4.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hagger?
4, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Higgins, you moved, so I take it you're 4.
Yes, Chairman, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan?
Thank you. I'm 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin?
Yes, Chairman, I'm 4.
Thank you. And Councillor Santapori? I've got a thumbs up there from Councillor Santapori, so that's good. Did you get that, Liz?
Yes, that's confirmed. Yep.
Okay, so that's 8 out of 8. I can confirm agenda item 7 is approved, and obviously some delegated rights to the head of planning to deal with some of the additional conditions and amendments we talked about. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for participating in that. We can now move on to agenda item 8, which is an out of borough consultation, which Richard, you'll take us through. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, yeah, this application is being reported to the Major Applications Planning Committee, so officers may issue objections on behalf of the London Borough of Hillingdon to the London Borough of Hounslow for the change of use from A1 retail to open A1, including food retail, and the subdivision of the existing unit to form 2 A1 retail units. together with car park refiguration, external alterations and associated works on the former Toys R Us store at Unit 5 on the Ballsbridge Industrial Estate in Hayes. So if we just look through the plans, this shows the site. So it's adjacent to the Grand Union Canal, which runs along here. But again, it is an out of borough site. So if we look at this plan, obviously the hatched line that shows the borough boundary. So obviously Hayes town centre is up here somewhere. This is our site here in the London Borough of Hounslow area. So obviously this is the Grand Union Canal running past here, and this is the Parkway, and this is the Ballsbridge roundabout. We got North Hyde Road coming in here. So this is the red line site showing the existing superstore and its associated car parking. Again, this shows the existing ground floor plan of the unit. It shows the existing first floor plan. Again, this shows the site plan and shows the internal area of the store and the car parking. Again, this is a proposed floor plan. Shows the backup for house facilities and the customer retail area. Again, this is the existing elevations of Unit 5, and these are the proposed more existing elevations, and these show the proposed elevations of the store. And again, more proposed elevations of the store, so it looks like it's going to be a little unit, or that's what's intended. Again, this shows the landscaping plan and the reconfiguration of the car parking on the site. Again, this shows the bird's eye view of the site. And this is the photograph outside the site, and these just show the store from within an internal access road. And this is the unit as viewed from the Hayes Road, which runs along the side of the unit. So the London Borough of Hillingdon has been consulted by the London Borough of Hounslow on a planning application located approximately 150 metres to the east of the borough boundary. Although not within the borough, the proposal has the potential to impact the London Borough of Hillingdon. The highways engineer has no objection, subject to a contribution towards Transport for London improvement works to Ballsbridge roundabout. Subject to suitable travel plan targets to counteract the impact of the development on air quality, the environmental specialist team has no objection to the proposed development. The proposal would not impact on the residential amenity of Hillingdon residents or on the character and appearance of the London Borough of Hillingdon. However, the council's planning policy team objects to the proposed development on the basis of an inadequate sequential test and impact assessment, including the failure to assess the impact of COVID-19. It is considered that the proposal does not demonstrate that there are no other sites available in sequentially preferable locations, and that the proposed development would not have a detrimental impact on the vitality and viability of Hayes Town Centre and the Uxbridge Road Hayes Minor Town Centre. For the reasons outlined in the report, the proposal is not considered to comply with Policy E5 of the Hillingdon Local Plan, Part 1 Strategic Policies, Policy DMTC1 of the Hillingdon Local Plan, Part 2 Development Management Policies, Policy SD7 of the London Plan, Intent to Publish version, and National Planning Policy Framework. As such, it is recommended that an objection be raised to the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for that, taking us through that, Richard. We get these consultations from neighbouring boroughs from time to time. So you've heard there are a number of policies that this, we believe that this, or the policy team believes that this contravenes. Who wants to start the debate on this one? Anybody indicating? Councillor Morgan?
I propose that we go with the officer's recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chapman, you indicated.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to propose it myself. I'm happy to second it.
Okay, good. Councillor Duncan, you also had your hand up there.
Yes, I do accept the policy arguments, but we're in such a changing situation, and the fact that this would be a little food store next to a Tesco food store, different demographic in terms of the shoppers. I do think that it may well be allowed on appeal. I mean, matters that have changed and are changing and will change even more due to COVID. And I don't know how this would stand up under appeal, but I do appreciate we have these policies in place at this time. People should go through the sequential test. And if that hasn't been demonstrated, then we should support our policies. So I will go with it, but I do think we'll be seeing many more changes like this. And also with the new planning bill coming out, which is going to, have sweeping effects in our borough as well as everywhere else. I think there'll be changes anyway, but I will vote for it. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you, Councillor Duncan. I'm not seeing any other members indicate, so I think we're now at a point where we can actually start to take a vote on this. So, Councillor Morse?
For Mr. Chairman, sorry for the delay.
That's no problem at all, thank you. Councillor Chapman, you seconded, so I take it you're for?
Yes, Chairman, for.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, you indicated, but yeah.
For.
Completeness. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Hagger?
Yes, for, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins?
Yeah, I am actually for it, but we didn't get a chance for the officers to respond to Councillor Duncan's point.
Okay, well, yeah, Richard, before we go on, is there something you want to pick up there? You're on mute, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, well, as I said, part of our planning policy officer's objection is the fact that this development is not considering the impacts of COVID-19 and the implications that that's going to have. So yeah.
Okay. Councillor Higgins, does that address your point?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll take it your four officers' recommendation to object.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Councillor Morgan, you moved, so I'll take it your four. Good.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin?
Yes, Chairman, I'm for the objection. Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Sansapori, try your mute button. Or a thumbs up. We got a thumbs up, Liz. Good. Okay, so I take it that is now 8 unanimous, 4 officers' recommendation to object to this proposal. Can you confirm?
Yes, I can confirm.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, right, agenda item 9, as we mentioned at the start of the meeting this evening, has been withdrawn. So we can now move to agenda item 10, which is Frays Courts, 71-73 Cowley Road, Uxbridge. Richard, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this application seeks prior approval for the change of use of a part single, part 2 and part 3-storey building on the west side of Cowley Road, opposite its junction with Cotswold Close, from office use to 23 residential units under Schedule 2, Part 3, Class O of the Town and Country Planning General Permitted Development Order. The units would comprise 5 studios and 18 one-bed units, and part of the site is within flood zone 3. Again, there are minor changes on the addendum sheet. So if we look at the go to the plans, again, this is the location plan. This is constraints plan. Obviously, this shaded area is showing a car parking management area in place. Now, this shows a locally listed school to the southeast there. Again, this is a red line location plan. And this shows the existing lower ground floor plan with its car parking. This shows the existing ground floor plan and the existing first and second floor plans. And again, this is the proposed lower ground floor plan, again showing the car parking with some disabled spaces being shown, and there's some cycle parking here and over here, I believe. And this shows the proposed ground floor plans. So the green are the studio units, and the pink proposed 1-bed units. And again, this is the first and second floor plans showing the mix of units on each of the floors. So this is the bird's eye aerial photograph of the site. Again, this is a photograph of the building. This is a photograph of the building from the further to the north of the site. Again, this is a view of the access into the car parking area. Again, this is a shot from the parking area onto the Cowley Road. That's the shot further to the north onto the Cowley Road. So a previous proposal under the same class of the GDPO for the conversion of the office building to 19 residential units was approved in May 2020. So the current application would increase the number of units by 4. The proposal under Schedule 2, Part 3 class over the Town and Country Planning Act can only be considered against transport and highway impacts of the development, contamination risks on the site, flooding risks on the site, and the impacts of noise from commercial premises on the future residential occupiers of the development. Officers have assessed the proposal against the 4 criteria. As regards parking, the site has a good PTAL score of 4, and with 20 spaces on the lower ground floor, the parking ratio will be 0.87 spaces per unit, which is considered acceptable in this location, subject to a Section 106 agreement restricting future residents from applying for a parking permit. The Council's Water and Flood Management Officer also raises no objection, subject to securing a Section 106 contribution for drainage improvement works to the public highway. Other matters and criteria will be dealt with by the recommended conditions. On this basis, the recommendation is that prior approval is required and is granted. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much for taking us through that, Richard. Before we open it up for debate, members will recall this one from a couple of months ago, and we are very limited in terms of what we can influence in terms of this application, as it was outlined by Richard. So I see a number of hands going up, starting with Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have seen this before, and really we don't have a lot of scope with this. It is close to the town centre. It will be very useful accommodation for people working in the town centre or nearby. I move officers' recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Higgins, you had your hand up there.
Yes, I second that, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Councillor Morgan, you indicated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm not against this application. However, can the officers tell me, is there any way we can put a condition in that can stop this from suddenly becoming all apartments and increasing this area from 24 to a much larger number of units? We've already seen it increase by 4, and I really don't want to see this come up again in a few months' time, going up to 27, 30 or even higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Good question. Richard, are you able to come in on that? If you turn your mute button off, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the internal subdivision of the building is not something that we can control. Unfortunately, we can't control the size of the units. That's not within the remit of an application under Class O of the Town and Country Planning Act.
So, sorry, Chairman, just to add to what Richard's saying, that they'd have to reapply for more units, and we would deal with that on its merits. Clearly, on this site, the more units they do, there will definitely be a tipping point where there becomes a parking stress issue, and other matters we can take into account come into play. But because it's a small increase, as is outlined in the report, we don't think there's any grounds to refuse it.
Yeah. Thank you, James. Councillor Morgan, did you want to come back on any of that? No? Okay, good. I don't see any other members indicating, so I think we can go to the vote on this one. Councillor Morse?
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
For, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, you moved, so I'll take it you're for.
I am, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Hagger?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins, you seconded.
Yes, I'm for, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin?
Yes, I'm for, Chairman.
Thank you. And Councillor Sansapori? Thumbs up. Thumbs up from Councillor Sansapori. Great. Liz, I make that 8 unanimous for officer's recommendation. Can you confirm?
Yep, that's confirmed. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, good. Thank you, everybody, for that. Right, that brings us to agenda item 11, the last item on the agenda this evening. And I'll hand over to Richard to take us through the Southlands Arts Centre on the Green in West Straton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the proposed scheme seeks listed building consent to change the colour of 3 external doors to Dulux red earth and to rebuild steps on the entrance path using engineering brick as existing, laid in matching mortar. The building is Grade 2 listed and is located within the West Straton Green Conservation Area, and the site also forms part of the Green Belt. The addendum sheet also does confirm that we haven't received any public responses on this application. So if we just go through the submission, this shows the site in pink. Again, this is a constraints plan showing in green the extent of the green belt, and also the hatched yellow shows the extent of the conservation area. And these are show the listed buildings, including our building here. Again, this is a submitted location plan of the site. Again, our buildings in here. So again, this is a block plan, and the arrow is pointing to where the step on the entrance path is located. And this is our building in here. So this is the existing floor plans. So the external doors are marked. So there's one here, and one here. So they're the ones that are intended to be repainted. This shows a detail of the step improvement. Literally, it just includes adding another step in here, so there's not such a big step down. This is just a bird's eye view of our site, and that shows the front elevation of the building. So the change of colour of the existing doors is to improve the appearance of the building, and the rebuilding of the steps is to improve the access. The Council's Conservation and Urban Design Officer has assessed the application and considers that the schedule of works for repairs is acceptable. There are no objections to the proposed new heritage Dulux red earth for the 3 external doors, and the steps to the footpath access are not significant historical interest and will be rebuilt using the same brick material and mortar. Overall, the proposal is considered appropriate and would not harm the character and the special interest of the listed building, and should enhance and improve the building's overall appearance and access. The Council's Tree Landscape Officer also raises no objections that the proposed works will not impact on existing landscapes. The application is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Richard. Dulux Red Earth. That's a new phrase. So I've got some people indicating. Councillor Morgan, I think you were waving at one point there, followed by Councillor Higgins. Is that correct?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I will actually propose that we go with officers' recommendations on this. And to any officers and councillors who haven't had a chance to visit this site, please go along. It's a fantastic little area, and it's well worth a couple of hours of your time when the sun's out. But yes, I'll propose we go with officers' recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan, and then a sneaky plug there as well, which is always good for our art centres. Councillor Higgins.
Yes, I had the pleasure of many years ago visiting this on quite a few occasions and helping them out as much as we could. Fantastic site, and I would be glad and honoured to second this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Any other councillors indicating? No. Okay, I think we can go straight to the vote on this one. Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Morse. Councillor Chapman.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, for the record as well, I've never been, but I intend to go.
Yep, good. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, please go, everybody. It's in my ward. It is wonderful. I endorse everything Councillor Morgan and Councillor Higgins have said.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm for the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Getting lots of plugs tonight, this application. Councillor Hagger.
Yes, for chair, and I have to accompany Alan Chapman on going, I think, because I haven't been.
Excellent. Councillor Higgins, you seconded, so I take it you're for.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Councillor Morgan, you moved, so I take it you're for.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. And that could be a rumour going round, couldn't it?
Councillor Melvin, let's get the vote done. Councillor Melvin.
Yeah. Yes, I agree, and I'm going to have a visit too.
Good. And Councillor Sansapori. Thumbs up, Councillor Sansapori, if you're... Yep, I can see the thumb. That's good. Right, Liz, I make that unanimous 8 for officer's recommendation for Southland's Art Centre.
Yep, I agree. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, good. I can confirm agenda item 11 is approved. Right, that brings us to the end of this evening's meeting. Just wishes me to wish you all the best for those that have been watching on YouTube, and a good night to you all.
Okay, councillors,
Yes.
if you can all remain on mute just for a moment, and I'm just going to shut down the stream. Thank you.